Danny Ocean is released from North Jersey State Prison after 4 years, and the first thing he does upon getting out is head to a casino in Atlantic City to play. He meets Frank, who asks if he has a new plan already, and Danny replies that he doesn't, as he just got out of prison. Elsewhere, Rusty Ryan is teaching a group of novices to play cards. He grows tired as they're not taking him seriously, so he steps outside for a drink. When Rusty returns, the group mentions that another player has joined them, and Rusty doesn't mind. They start playing, and Danny and Rusty cleverly trick the novices into raising their bets each round, eventually creating a pot worth over $10,000. Naturally, the novices have no chance, and Danny wins the pot. Afterward, Rusty and Danny talk, with Rusty expressing his boredom and asking about Danny's plans. Danny explains that it's a tricky job requiring a large crew, with each member potentially taking home an 8-figure sum. Rusty asks about the target, and Danny reveals they plan to simultaneously hit 3 Las Vegas casinos owned by a man named Terry Benedict. Rusty notes they'll need about a dozen people for various cons. Next, they are in Las Vegas talking to a man named Ruben, who initially thinks they're crazy because Las Vegas casinos have enough armed personnel to occupy Paris and recounts several failed historical attempts at robbing casinos. However, when Danny and Rusty mention they're targeting Terry Benedict's casinos, Ruben immediately changes his mind, having lost his own casino to Benedict. They then recruit the Malloy brothers as drivers for the heist. Frank is brought in as their inside man at the casino, and Livingston is recruited as their tech expert, having experience with surveillance work for the FBI's mob squad. They also hire Basher Tarr, an explosives expert. Basher scolds his novice crime team for forgetting to turn off the alarm during. Rusty arrives at the scene, pretending to have the authority to take Basher away, and Basher remarks that it will be nice to work with proper villains again, laughing as one of his explosives goes off. They also visit a circus to hire the amazing Yen, a skilled acrobat. Finally, they approach an old criminal friend, Saul Bloom, to see if he wants in on their scheme. Saul initially resists, claiming he's changed, but can't resist joining once Rusty explains the plan. Danny notes they now have 10 people and thinks it should be enough, but quickly suggests they get one more. Danny finds Linus Caldwell, a skilled pickpocket whose father he knew, and asks if he wants in on their operation. The team gathers at Ruben's place, and after enjoying some lavish drinks, they listen to Danny's detailed plan on how to steal the cash from the vault containing money from 3 of the most profitable casinos in Las Vegas, all owned by Terry Benedict. That Nevada Gaming Commission regulations require casinos to hold enough cash to cover every chip on their floors, amounting to between $50 and $80 million on a regular weekday, but on a fight night 2 weeks from now, it would be at least $150 million. Next, they start working on their plan, spying on all the guards in the casino to learn as much about them as possible, and studying routes, exits, and quick escape paths. Basher ensures they can turn off the power to the building. They steal a card from one of the lonely technicians, enabling Livingston to tap into the casino's security surveillance. The 2 Malloy brothers create a distraction by pretending to argue, blocking the view so that Livingstone can slip inside. He goes to plant some wireless tech to surveil the security from a distance. Saul is getting a fine suit made from imported silk, practicing using his new alias Lyman Zerga, a persona Hill used to pose as a foreign multimillionaire living at the casino hotel. They spy on Terry Benedict, who arrives at 2 p.m. daily to meet with his personnel, managers, security, and important guests. Each day, the codes for doors inside the casino are switched, and Benedict receives the new codes at 7:30 p.m. before he leaves. While spying, Rusty and Linus notice a beautiful woman exiting, and Rusty identifies her as Tess. Rusty then confronts Danny, asking if he's in it for the money or to get back at the man dating his ex-wife. Danny replies that it's both. The next day, Tess and Benedict inspect a new painting for the casino's art collection, and Benedict mentions he's looking forward to their date that night. Later, Mr. Zerga, Saul, plays cards and requests a private meeting with Benedict. Benedict is briefed on Zerga's background, learning he's a prominent figure in the European arms industry. Meanwhile, Tess anticipates Benedict's arrival but encounters Danny instead. Danny notes she isn't wearing her ring, and she reveals she sold it, saying he still owes her. She mentions she's with Terry now, and when Danny asks if Benedict makes her laugh, she retorts that Benedict doesn't make her cry like Danny did. Mr. Zerga informs Benedict about a black briefcase arriving at the casino that requires high-level security, beyond simple safes. Shortly after, at the restaurant, Danny exchanges a few words with Benedict before departing. The following day, Basher notices a power outage in the building and investigates. That evening, as the team reviews their plan and amazing yen practices in the vault, Basher announces they're in deep trouble. He explains that an electrical team has discovered and is fixing a vulnerability in the electrical system he planned to exploit to cut power to the casino, rendering their plan ineffective. They contemplate their next move when Basher suggests using a pinch. He explains that a pinch is like a nuclear bomb without the mass destruction, creating an electromagnetic pulse to knock out the power, but there's only one place in the world with a pinch large enough for their needs. They head to the California Institute of Advanced Science to steal one, but as they hastily leave after being spotted, Amazing Yen injures his hand. The following morning, Livingston announces they've got a problem, revealing that Danny has been red flagged, and security will now watch him like hawks. Rusty asks how it happened, and Danny admits he doesn't know. Then Linus interjects, explaining it's because Danny has been interacting with Tess. Rusty declares that Danny's out, or they'll call the whole thing off. He gets upset, questioning who will trigger the vault if Danny's out. Rusty asks Linus if he can do it, and Linus confirms he can. The next day, everything is set in motion. Linus prepares for his part, while Rusty goes to inform Saul that he's up. Meanwhile, Benedict meets Mr. Zerga as the briefcase arrives at the casino, and they start crossing the casino floor. Suddenly, someone yells out Saul's real name, asking if he remembers him. Mr. Zerga instructs his bodyguards, the Malloy brothers, to get him out of there. Inside a secure room, Benedict inspects the briefcase to ensure it doesn't contain any dangerous or illicit material. Satisfied, he allows it to be taken but states he can't accompany the briefcase into the vault. Elsewhere, the pinch is installed, and the Malloy brothers disguise themselves as room service. They reach Saul's room and ask Amazing Yen if he's ready. Benedict leaves Mr. Zerga to monitor as they transfer his briefcase from the security room to the vault. Linus approaches Benedict, claiming to be from the Nevada Gaming Commission and requesting a moment of his time. Danny spots Tess walking through the casino floor and starts following her, while being followed himself. Tess tells Benedict that their employee Frank has a history of illegal activities at casinos, prompting Benedict to remove him from the floor. Meanwhile, the Malloy brothers have switched to security uniforms. Tess confronts Danny, accusing him of being up to something and declaring he won't win her back. Danny responds that he's just come to say goodbye, and leaves, but is stopped on his way out. Linus explains that Frank is an ex-convict, and Frank starts a heated argument, accusing them of trying to throw a black man out on the street. The argument escalates until Rusty announces they've got Benedict. The Malloy brothers start bickering again because one of them lost their card. Other guards, unaware of the ploy, intervene, explaining it's Benedict's stuff they're transporting, and proceed to take it down. Mr. Zerga is informed that his briefcase is now in the vault. Rusty signals that it's his cue. Benedict warns Frank never to set foot in his casino again. On their way out, Linus claims he forgot his pager, and Benedict asks if he can find his way back, which Linus affirms. Basher, who is driving, reports that he's nearly there. Danny inquires about Benedict's arrival. An unknown man named Bruiser steps in, and the other guards leave. The guards arrive at the vault with the box and briefcase, and Livingston exclaims, "Oh shit!" Danny gets hit and exclaims, "Damn it," telling Bruiser not to hit him until later, as they have other things to do first. Bruiser apologizes. Watching his briefcase being placed in the vault, Mr. Zerga starts feeling ill. The team begins tending to Mr. Zerga as Livingston switches all live cameras to video footage. Benedict joins Tess for the big boxing match. Linus climbs out of his hiding spot and is surprised to see Danny. They're glad to see each other and begin working together. Rusty arrives, claiming to be the doctor they called. He starts trying to revive Mr. Zerga, and when the Malloy brothers appear as paramedics, Rusty announces that they've lost him. Meanwhile, Bruiser makes loud noises to trick the guards into thinking he's beating Danny up. Danny and Linus finish their task and confirm they're set. The others signal they're ready too, and Basher asks for a minute. He loads the pinch and steps away. He takes some precautions and then presses the trigger. The pinch works almost too well and nearly all of Las Vegas powers down. Danny and Linus go down, but their wires are too short, forcing them to cut them just as the power comes back on. Chaos ensues everywhere. In the boxing area, in the casino, and security is overwhelmed. At that moment, Amazing Yen begins his move. The briefcase almost falls, but he catches it. Danny and Linus use a device emitting gas to knock out the guards at the vault. They start making their way in and knock on the inner door to signal to Amazing Yen that the guards are out. He makes his jump but miscalculates and nearly triggers the alarm. They place explosives on the door, but as Amazing Yen is about to leave, his bandage on his hand gets stuck. Livingston and the others try to warn Danny and Linus not to blow it, but their earpieces fail and they begin counting down. The trigger doesn't work. Linus asks if he checked the batteries, which he hadn't. Linus remarks someone can get hurt if they get sloppy. Amazing Yen manages to free himself just as they fix the problem and blow the door. They enter to find Yen unharmed and start stacking the money. Saul remarks that it's the sexiest thing he's ever seen. Suddenly, a phone in Tess's pocket rings, and it's not hers. Benedict answers, asking who it is. Rusty's voice says it's the man robbing him. They quickly get to the security room but see everything appears normal, and Benedict assumes Rusty is bluffing. Then Rusty says to keep watching, remarking that one's luck can change quickly. Tess realizes Danny is behind this, understanding he placed the phone in her pocket. Benedict asks her to leave and then tells Rusty that he's a dead man. Rusty proposes an ultimatum. Either help them leave with half of the $160 million in the vault, leaving $80 million for Benedict, or capture them, and they'll blow up all the $160 million, causing a public loss. Benedict mutes the phone and tells the manager to call 911. Tess asks about Danny, and Rusty reassures her he's fine. Benedict calls back, agreeing to the deal, and Rusty explains they'll put 6 bags of cash in the elevator for his guards to collect and load into a white van outside. If they try to open the bags, the doors on the van, or try anything else, they'll blow the money in the bags in the vault. Benedict complies, and shortly after, a SWAT team arrives. A squad goes down to the vault and asks Benedict to cut the power inside so they can take down the 3 inside. They do, and Benedict hears gunshots, asking to restore the lights. They turn the power back on, remarking they must have shot some explosives inside, and say they'll search for survivors, adding the 2 tied guards are unharmed. Benedict is furious. Security tracks the van to an airfield, stepping outside and taking out the tires. A police officer tells Benedict they don't know how the robbers entered or exited the vault, and Benedict asks everyone to leave. They open the van door but find it empty. Ruben tells the Malloy brother to blow it, which he does. They inform Benedict there was no money inside, just flyers for hookers. Suddenly, Benedict remembers they installed new carpets in the vault and asks the manager if it says Bellagio on it, which it doesn't. Benedict realizes they saw a recording of a copy of their vault. We see how it went down. Livingston intercepted the 911 call. The team arrived as the SWAT team went down to get the money and left unnoticed with all the cash. Benedict confronts Danny, where Bruiser is beating him. Benedict asks if he had a hand in this. Danny denies knowing what he's talking about, and after thinking for a moment, Benedict says he's free to go. In a hotel room, Tess gets a call to watch Channel 8. She sees Benedict ask Danny once more if he took his money. Danny asks if he'd give up Tess to get his money back, and Benedict says yes. Danny says he knows someone who could help, and Benedict tells his men to contact the police, believing Danny violated his parole. Moments later, Benedict meets Tess, who tells him that in his hotel, there's always someone watching. Tess walks out, sees Danny being taken by the police, and runs up, saying that's her husband. She asks how long he'll be away, and he says probably not more than 6 months. Nearby, the team hides the SWAT van. Later, they all gather at the big fountain outside the casino to celebrate their successful heist, then go their separate ways. Some months later, Rusty is waiting as Danny is released from prison. The 2 walk to Rusty's car, and Danny jokes about the car being a piece of junk despite Rusty's wealth. He sees Tess in the car, happily jumps into the back seat, and they kiss. Across the parking lot, 2 familiar faces watch them and start to follow loosely. The end.